Okay, thank you all for coming. This week's Parsha, Parshas Ba'aloscha, we find already right at the beginning of the Parsha an interesting idea. Aaron HaKohen, Chazal tell us, was saddened that he wasn't included in the Chanukas HaBayis, the Chanukas HaMishkan. He wasn't included as one of the Nisim to bring those special karbanos. And to cheer him up, so to speak, to raise him back up, to raise his spirits, the Rebbeinu Shalom gave him the mitzvah of menorah, that he's going to be the one to go up and light the menorah. So the question is, first of all, what exactly was Aaron sad about? He's the Kohen Gadol. He does the avoda every day. There weren't too many Kohanim around yet. He had of the greatest positions in Klal Yisrael. He was doing of the most holiest services possible. And yet he was sad that he didn't have the carbon of the Nisim. What exactly was he jealous of? Or did he feel like he was missing when he had an unbelievable amount of great and holy avoda and service to do? What did he feel like he was missing? The second question is, once we answer that question, how does lighting the menorah answer that? So it was like Hashem just said, okay, here's one more thing you could do. Oh, okay, fine. Now I feel special. Like, that's ridiculous. He was doing so much. And now Hashem adds to that the menorah, and now, I'm satisfied. What's the pshat in that? The Ramban talks about, just as an interesting point, that the menorah was actually a hint to Aaron that one day in the future, many generations later, there will be a group of Kohanim who will do their own Chanukas HaBayis in the Beis HaMikdash. Who's that? The Chashmonaim in the time of Hanukkah. They were Kohanim. They were not supposed to be the leaders of Klal Yisrael. They were not supposed to be like the king of Klal Yisrael, which is what the Nasi is compared to, each for his shevet. That's supposed to be from Yehuda. But it was Horasha at the time that they were the ones who were able to retake over the Beis HaMikdash, to recapture the Beis HaMikdash and be able to put it back into service. So temporarily it was justified for the Chashmonaim, who were Kohanim, to go and re-inaugurate, so to speak, the Beis HaMikdash, to renew everything. And so Aaron was being shown through the mitzvah of menorah really a future time where his own descendants, the Kohanim, will actually have a hand in an inauguration of the Beis HaMikdash. That's what satisfied him. But it still doesn't answer the first question. What did he feel like he was missing? That he needed something more. So I want to suggest like this. Maybe we could say that what is the job of a Kohen? Primarily it's to bring a carbon for the Balabayas to Hashem. It's being like a shliach. It's being a go-between. You make the bridge. You connect the person to Hashem through the service of that carbon. And it's like a giving, reach nichoach laHashem. It's almost like Chazal talk about it compared to like Hashem eating the smoke of the carbon. It's obviously not exactly what it is, but there's those such words are used. It's like you're giving something to Hashem, so to speak, and you're taking it from the Bailim to give it to Him. So perhaps, and by the way, there's a machlokas in the Gemara. Are the Kohanim shluchi didan or shluchi derachmana? Which means, is the Kohen the Balabayas' shliach, giving the carbon to Hashem for him, or Hashem's shliach? So you might say, according to the Mandamar, he's Hashem's shliach, so then he's not just giving to Hashem. No, that just means he's like a shliach lekabbalah. If you learn Gittin, there's a shliach laholacha, you're bringing something from someone, and then there's a shliach lekabbalah, you're receiving something for someone. Either way, Aaron HaKohen's job, no matter how you look at the nature, the halachic nature and status of the shlichus, either way, he's taking from the balabais and giving to Hashem. Either he's the shliach of the balabais to give it, or the shliach of Hashem to receive it, but that's what he's doing, giving to Hashem. Perhaps Aaron looked at the Nesiim and he saw something unique that he didn't have in his avodah. He saw that the Nasi was considered the leader and like the king, as we said, the Ramban makes that point, of his shevet. What does a king do? He collects taxes. He collects services and goods and distributes to the people. He makes sure everyone's taken care of. He gives to the people. And Aaron was missing that. Where in his avodah is he giving to the people? He's acting on behalf of the people to give to Hashem, but where is he giving to the people? Where is he connecting himself to Klal Yisrael in that fashion? Like the Nasi, who is seen as connecting to his people. Where is the Kohen seen as connecting to his people to give to them? And if we say that that's the question, that that's what he was missing, then the menorah beautifully answers that. Because as we know, Chazal tell us, the menorah was not a lamp. It wasn't something to provide light in the Beis HaMikdash. The Beis HaMikdash had its own special sources of light. Lav la'ora utzarich. It wasn't for the light, and that's why the windows, Chazal tell us, of the Beis HaMikdash were narrow on the inside and wide on the outside, which is the exact opposite of how you'd want to design windows. You'd want them to be narrow on top or somewhat wide on top to let the sunlight in, and then expand as you come inside so that the light can come in from the outside. No, it's the menorah was actually giving off whatever it was giving off to the world. And that was the Hashpos Hashem. The menorah was actually a spiritual source that when lit then bestowed spiritual kochos and goodness onto Klal Yisrael and ultimately onto the world. When Aaron was now able to light the menorah, he was giving now to Klal Yisrael. He wasn't just taking from Klal Yisrael and giving to Hashem. He was taking from Hashem, so to speak, and giving to Klal Yisrael. He was able to be mashlim, to complete the duality of that relationship in his service. Perhaps we could say that's the pshat. Now this is possibly going to be the last chabur I'm going to give to you guys this year. And the summer's coming up. So I want to tie in this idea to the concept in general of free time. And really how to be happy. How to make sure that we're happy. Because sometimes we might make decisions that in the short term seem like that's going to make us happy. But over a long term, and really every day we have some free time. Every once in a while you'll have a free weekend. But now with the summer, and then there's Yom Tovim, but they have all their responsibilities and necessities that don't give you as much free time. But now that the summer comes, that's really the time where there's a lot of free time. So I think it's important to go into it with a certain mindset and a certain plan, even if not, we're not going to obviously talk about specifics of what to do, where to go, but the general concepts I think are important. So you have Chashava Gedolim in our history, who their concept of how to use free time was they'd be learning Kiddushin or they'd be learning Bava Metzia, and it'd be a hard limud. They felt like they needed a break, so they'd close the Bava Metzia, push it to the side, take the Megillah from the corner of their desk, Maseches Megillah, and learn Maseches Megillah, or Tainus, or something else, right? A quote-unquote lighter Masechta. And that's amazing for many reasons, but it's not shaykh to most people. Most people need a break from the work that they're doing, not just making their workload lighter and then going back to the heavy work, but actual break from the work. And that's the concept of Bein Hazmanim. It's a time to take a break from the heavy work. But we have to be careful when it's given to us at such a large block. When we have such breaks once a week on a Shabbos afternoon or a Friday afternoon, when we have such breaks every once in a while for shorter periods of time, it's much easier to just kind of use it as what it is, a break. But to use the summer as a complete break, meaning, as some guys like to call it, just veg out the entire summer, you might and probably will be doing yourself a lot more harm than good with that break time. So let's talk about that. We could talk about good ways to spend your free time, ways that can relax you or rejuvenate you, exercising, walking through and noticing nature, music, reading a book, writing, all sorts of talents or hobbies that you might want to develop, playing music or art, anything artistic, perhaps even maybe in Yana Dioma, listening or watching a game, not watching on campus, of course, but listening, and playing sports for sure. Maybe some use of technology in the right way with the right safeguards, of course. Trying to make sure to use those things in generally public places where people could look and see what you're doing. Make sure that you don't get yourself into trouble with inappropriate stuff. But all of these things could potentially be used as a wonderful way to rest, relax, rejuvenate your break time, your free time. And that's important. By the way, technology specifically is, and I say this all the time, is neither good or bad. It's not that technology is bad. What do you mean? No, technology is so good. It's neither. It's a multiplier. That's all it is. You want to do something good, you throw technology into the mix, very often you're going to multiply how much goodness you can do. You want to do something bad, you throw technology into the mix, you're probably going to multiply how much bad you can do. You want to do a mitzvah through technology, raise tzedakah through technology, it's unbelievable, the exponential amounts and rewards and accomplishment. You want to speak Lashon Hara, you throw technology into it, think about the devastating effects. Technology is simply a multiplier. You choose what to use it for. So it certainly is something we can talk about, as it is all around us, in whatever shape or form it comes, as something that can be used for good and certainly can be used for as a break or something that you might engage in your free time. The golden rule is like this. What is the purpose of a break? What's the purpose of having free time, quote unquote? Simple. To allow you to rest and relax and rejuvenate, to be able to get back to work. If you engage in some type of activity in your free time that's really intense, and by the time you're finished with it, it's like, okay, I really need to relax from that. Well, wait, what was that? So then apparently that became your work. That became the thing that you wanted to accomplish in life for that day or for that hour, for whatever you. Right? There are two parts to your life. There are all the things that you want to accomplish with your life and do and be good and know that will be your legacy in life, and you'll live till 120 and look back and say, those are all the things that I did. But that takes a lot of work, all those things. And then there's break time and free time where you rest and relax. But if during your resting and relaxing and you're rejuvenating in any of these activities, you play a certain video game that you're totally stressed out afterwards and you need to rest now, what kind of relaxation is that? I'm not knocking video games. You play a different video game with a limited amount of time, all the other requirements, and it's appropriate. Another one that's more relaxing, that's more just interesting, more of like a puzzle type, whatever. And afterwards, you don't need to rest and recover from it. Now you can get back to work. And that's using it for good. And that's what free time and break time is all about. Exactly how much time and exactly which devices and what to use and when and what's the time limit that you should do. Maybe you should set a timer for yourself if you know you struggle with that, because that's challenging. But of course, everything within defined limits and within means, but that's the rule. That's the golden rule to follow and to apply to every case. Is this an activity that's going to rejuvenate me and I can get back to work? Or is this something that's going to do the opposite or not accomplish that at all? That's what you want to look for. And really, when you really dig down and get to the center of it, you'll realize pretty quickly that almost every activity that you'll really feel rested and rejuvenated to get back to work, so to speak, is going to be something that actually is accomplishing in of itself. Most things that have zero element of accomplishment to them, that are completely mindless and pointless, are going to be the same things that you're not going to feel too rejuvenated from afterwards. You go and you take a nap even, of the most passive activities you could do. You're doing something very productive at that time. You're actively rebuilding energy stores within yourself. Exercising, tremendous accomplishing effects. Writing a piece of music, course, there are other things that are just simply relaxing that also relax you, listening to music and things like that. But the point is that very often it's actually in of itself accomplishing. And always, if we engage in those activities for too long where we're not accomplishing and it's just pure just rest and relaxation, we end up feeling not good about it afterwards. Because we have countless chazals. Adam la'amal yulad, a person who is born to work, to accomplish. And that's what we thrive on. People who go into retirement. It used to be, it's an interesting just social phenomenon in America. It used to be that the average life expectancy was like in the 60s. So a person who died at 62 years old, there was no shock. When somebody dies nowadays at 82, nobody's like, oh my gosh, this life was cut so short. It's 82, could have lived till 92. We're not happy, but it's like, okay. Once you get into your 80s, it's like, okay, now it's like normal, we would call it, right? It used to be 60s. By the way, that's why, just as an interesting side point, the whole issue with Social Security that you might hear on the news and the ability to pay it and to pay all these benefits to retired people is all facing a lot of stress and difficulty because now we're trying to pay for people for 20 years and 30 years past retirement as opposed to 5 or 10 years on average. Anyway, the big movement now is that retired people who have 10, 20, 30 more years to live and are all of a sudden not working anymore are all looking for causes and institutions and yeshivas and shuls to not just donate money to, but to get involved in and to do things, to be the gabbai, and to be active, to feel like you're accomplishing. And to accomplish, because that's what we want, that's what we do. Shlomo Melech tells us to look at the ant and learn from the ant who constantly works. And he works from his own volition. He doesn't have anyone watching over him. Hey, you ant, you're out of line. No, I don't think it's built into the ants to like attack a lazy ant or something like that. I don't think they do that. It's just none of them are lazy. There's no such thing. That's how they're built. And you actually have an opportunity. Bein hazmanim, as much as it's an opportunity to relax, absolutely. To engage in all sorts of interesting pursuits that you can't during the year, absolutely, especially if they're accomplishing, absolutely. But to also consider that you're actually practicing now for the rest of your life. To, as much as you can on your own, without being told by your parents or your counselors or your head counselors or your whoever else might be watching over you, to actually be on your own, make the decision, I'm not going to just do this thing for another hour, wasting my time. I get up, do something accomplishing. By the way, I'll throw in learning every day. I know that sounds like, of course, learning every day. But plenty of guys think it'll work out and they don't make plans and they don't set up how that's going to happen and when in their schedule it's going to be or chavrusas and things like that. And it doesn't end up working out, or they learn like 5 minutes after chakras every day. And they come back next year to yeshiva and it's a really, really hard transition. Many, many guys who come to me like, did I just make the biggest mistake of my life coming back to Ner Yisrael at the beginning of the year? A lot of guys think that at the beginning of the year, transitioning back. But, just in general, coming back to yeshiva with such long hours, such hard work. But the guys that really feel it intensely, it's so difficult, is because they did no learning over the summer. If you really could keep like an hour Seder, an hour and a half Seder, I know it sounds like a lot. Maybe some of you will do 3 or 4 hours Sederim. I don't know. But if you could really have a chash of a Seder at some point in the day, every day, it makes such a big difference towards transitioning back to yeshiva after Bein hazmanim is over. So you should really try to accomplish that. And have that as part of your workload. You have plenty of time for break and rest and relaxation, etc., and other various pursuits that you can accomplish with. But now's the time when there will be times that no one's looking over your shoulder. No one's telling you do this or don't do that. And it's going to be up to you. You practice multiple times over the course of the summer, Bein hazmanim, on your own to get yourself to go do something a little bit more productive. Okay, so you're on a device for 45 minutes. It's getting a bit much now. You on your own. No one has to tell you. Shut it off. Go take a walk around the block. And then decide, do I want to go back on it? Just on your own. Recognize that there are productive things that you can do, or ways in which you might be able to actually rejuvenate yourself, not just be a vegetable, but rejuvenate yourself in other ways. I'll repeat again, I'm not saying that you shouldn't use those things. I'm just saying everything in moderation. And recognizing that there are plenty of things that you can accomplish with that can be rejuvenating at the same time. And you should think about those. What can I do? What kind of hobbies and talents and projects can I engage in, whether they have to do with learning or not? So those are the basic ideas I wanted to share with you when it comes to free time in general. But there's one aspect of what you can do with your free time that I think is perhaps the most powerful of all. And this is the piece that connects to the lesson I think we can learn from Aaron HaKohen and the menorah. There will definitely be times where you'll think to yourself, okay, like this is not available to me, this is not accessible to me, no one's around for this right now. I'm like, what do I do? There's one thing you can always do. We don't live in isolation. You can always think of a way to help another person. And when you're in yeshiva, there are plenty of opportunities for that also, but perhaps in limited stripes and colors. But when you're on a summer bein hazmanim, there are many, many varied activities you can do on your own that help people. And intrinsically, that makes a person feel good. It was what Aaron HaKohen was missing, and what he gained with the lighting of the menorah and giving the hashpos to Klal Yisrael. So you're home, let's say. You see a couple of dirty dishes in the sink. Do them. Don't wait to be asked. Certainly don't say no thanks if you are asked. Do them before you're asked. That's accomplishing. And guess what? It's not so tiring. It's not so intense, such intensive labor. You do the dishes. Do if you did. Vacuum a little area that needs to be clean this, do that, put this away, take the garbage out, whatever. Help a sibling out with something. There are so many opportunities when you're home. Maybe you'll be away at camp. Okay, then it will be a little bit more like yeshiva, but still there are so many opportunities of what you can help out with younger kids, kids your age even, where you could be of tremendous help to them, to get things arranged for them, to buy them something, to do a chesed. That's an amazing opportunity that the summer provides. And we say maybe during the year, we're so focused on the limud haTorah that there's less time for these types of things. But in the summer, we can really even be creative with it. You can think, what can I do that would... And then, even without that, even without what I'm about to say, it's amazing. But then if you get appreciated for it, if your mother or father or the head counselor or another camper or your sibling, I thank you so much, that's amazing, you see what you did, it's an incredible feeling. Most people in this world don't have Torah in their lives. They're not even Jewish. What drives them, what motivates them, for many, many, many people, a huge percentage is helping others. Yeah, a doctor gets paid a lot of money. Some do. Less do nowadays. What drives him, what gets him to wake up in the morning is, I'm going to help another person today. It's an amazingly empowering feeling. And everyone looks for how are they doing that in their lives. You don't really need to be part of any profession to do that. You're a person, there are people around you, many of them people who you care a lot about. Think, what can I do today? One thing. Every day, do one thing for one person and one additional person. Try to do more. It's an amazing way to spend some of your free time. It grows yourself, it builds your relationships with others, and it also, again, allows you the time now to practice. For the amounts of time that you won't have someone looking over your shoulder, let me get up and do something productive right now. I can always come back to this fun, entertaining thing. Let me do something productive. And you practice that now when you're an adult, and even less so will anyone be looking over your shoulder. Do you want to be the lazy adult who, I'm finally out of my parents' home, in charge of myself, now I could just do nothing all day? That's what you're looking forward to? Or do you want to be able to make your own schedule? Maybe you don't like that your parents don't tell you do this first and do that second, and you want to do it the opposite way. And now you can do it the way you want, but as an accomplishing human being productive, and ultimately being happy. Because true happiness comes from productivity and accomplishments. And using break time for what it sounds like, as a break to get back to that accomplishing task. To be able to continue to build and produce. So Amir Hashem will take these ideas to heart. I know that this yeshiva particularly, it's probably true with most, they really work you very hard at the end of this man, especially with the additional test of the Masechta Bechina. And it just adds a little bit more of an isayon that day after the Masechta Bechina is over, of almost catching your breath and like, okay, finally I can just do nothing. It's a trap. Of course, I'm not saying that the day after your Masechta Bechina you should learn however many hours you learned the day before your Masechta Bechina. I'm not saying that. And if you want to do that, I'm not going to think that's amazing. But make sure you don't burn out. But fine, you'll learn less. Maybe you'll only learn an hour that day. Maybe you'll learn only 4 hours that day. Whatever. But still learn a decent amount that day. Have a nice amount of uninterrupted learning that you could do that day. Do something else productive that day. Don't just say, now I can just totally stare into nothing. Just stare into space. Do nothing. That's not going to help you. You're not going to be happier by doing that. In the immediate moment, it feels like, it feels so good. But very soon afterwards, it becomes self-destructive. And it makes you tired and lazy. And it becomes a self-repeating cycle that actually is a self-defeating cycle and hurts you. So stay productive. Accomplish. Stay learning. And Amir Hashem, the whole summer will be a time of resting and rejuvenation and accomplishment in multiple areas. And you'll be able to come back, Amir Hashem, next month, rejuvenated and ready to be able to work hard, to continue to steig and to grow in every way as a good, healthy person and Jew. And Amir Hashem will give the Rebbe Shalom so much nachas that he'll bring us the Mashiach Tzidkenu. We'll come and all be able to come back to Yeshiva in Yerushalayim. Habnuya b'mher v'yameinu. Amen.